Everyone here on Circles of Inspiration, I just want to introduce you to my dear friend and respected teacher and energy healer and worker, Linda Dieffenbach. So, Linda, I wanted to say I've been waiting to talk to you about this topic since we spoke about it, and I'm really excited to bring you over to my Circles of Inspiration Facebook page because there are so many people here that are just amazing friends, followers, people that are avid learners and that really care about their self-care. And they really just eat up all of the content on Circles of Inspiration, so they can live their best life because they know when they do that for themselves, they're obviously paying that forward to the world and being the best version of themselves. So here I am, about weekly. I've been interviewing really special, wonderful people like yourself. And today we're going to be talking about how you healed, how I healed my childhood trauma, and we're going to be bringing that conversation to the audience. So anyone who's live with me now, just say hey in the comments. Let me know where you're from, and we'll be responding to those comments later. And any questions that come up also while Linda is speaking, while we're talking in conversation, we like to stay focused on the conversation, but Linda's going to come back and check those questions later, as will myself. So we'll come back and get back to you later on that, but please leave any questions and comments as we go along live. We're doing this through Zoom, so I'm not looking at Facebook and can't see your comments, and so therefore that's why we're going to check them later. So anyway, Linda, um, first of all, I want to let my audience get to know a little bit more about you. I've had the pleasure of being in your classes, working with you, reading your blogs and your articles, and seeing how you engage with people and seeing how you really change and transform people's lives through the work that you do. But I'd like to hear from you exactly, like, where did it all start? What inspired you? What drives your passion? Share a little bit with me about who you are and all of that.
Yeah, so I really came to this work through my own healing process. I lived through a lot of childhood trauma, and when I was younger, I was in pretty bad shape. I was really desperately working for help. At one point, when I was a teenager, I had attempted to commit suicide, and was hospitalized, and I was screaming for help. I was constantly asking people for, trying to reach out for somebody who could help me with what I was living with. And what I was met with was negation and contradiction, and your life is perfect. I don't understand what's wrong with you. And that was really, really, of course, very traumatizing in and of itself. These were the professionals that were supposed to be helping me. And so, at one point, I shut myself down. Like, that side of myself, I just shut it down and started pretending that my life was what they told me it was. It was perfect, but I was really a mess. And I had a really hard time finding anyone who could really support me in that. And at that time, there wasn't a lot of understanding about trauma even in the field of psychology. It's very, very new in the field of psychology, unfortunately. So people who were living through trauma at that time, there was really no solid understanding of what happened, how it affected you, or anything. And when I was in my late 20s, I was introduced to Reiki. And it's interesting, I had never experienced it, but I was on an online group, and the woman who ran the group was a Reiki master, and she was offering it to the people in the group. And I'm reading about it, and I was like, I need this. I don't know what it is, I don't understand it, but I need it. And I immediately signed up for all 3 levels and learned through her and started working with Reiki. At that time, again, it was really more for me, to help me deal with my stress, deal with anxiety, deal with, just kind of calm my nervous system. And it was very helpful as a tool. But then a few years later, I met my mentor, Elizabeth Frediani, who is an amazing, amazing gifted healer. And I met her through a meditation class that she was leading, and I had signed up to do private work with her. And she had developed a process called chakra clearing with applied integration. And I signed up, I started doing work with her. And it was amazing because in 3 sessions, I made more progress than years of therapy and all the other things that I was trying to do.
Let me stop you right there for one moment.
Yeah.
I have to interrupt you here for one moment because
Sure.
you brought up something that's so important that people need to know. And you
Yeah.
brought up that you started studying with her and she's a healer. I want to share the message that people who are healers don't heal us, we heal ourselves with their help. So you found the right teacher, the right guide, the right mentor, which was so important. And
Mhm.
I'm getting goosebumps all over my body as I'm saying this to you because this is one of the magic elixirs. And for everyone who's listening right now, you heal yourself. You
Mhm.
use a healer's help and guidance as you would any teacher or doctor or expert. And I want to applaud you for finding Reiki so young. I wish that I had found Reiki so young. I was in my 30s by the time I realized what a blessing for you. And I'm sorry to interrupt, but I had to bring that point to because you're that teacher now, you're that mentor to others,
Mhm.
and you help others to heal. So that's why I wanted to bring the attention to that. So I'm sorry, keep going. This is fascinating. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, because that's a really important point. Absolutely. Because sometimes when we turn to healers or coaches or teachers, especially coming from a place of being traumatized, we oftentimes go with the, how do I want to say this? We give up our power to them. You know, we look to them as if they're fixing us or doing something to us, rather than saying, I'm coming to you so that you can help me heal myself. So yes, that's a great point. Thank you for pointing that out. But yeah, so when I started working with Elizabeth, like I said, it was magical because in part, like, she's reading my chakra systems, and the chakras don't lie. And so she's tuned into my energy field, and I was very, very good at avoiding things. That was part of my trauma response. One of my strategies was, because I wasn't allowed to see the things that were happening in my family and in my life, I wasn't allowed to acknowledge it, and nobody else was acknowledging it. So I was very good at not acknowledging things. You know, so I could spend an hour with a therapist and talk about absolutely nothing, and they wouldn't take me there. But with Elizabeth, like, she's tuned into my energy, and she's so tuned in and so direct. Like, she's just bringing me back and bringing me back and bringing me back to where I needed to be in order to address the things that I needed to address. And it was, like I said, it was just amazing the amount of progress I made with her in such a short period of time. And I continue to work with her. You know, but when I was at the end of this meditation series that we were in, she offered to teach the members of the group the chakra clearing work, which of course I was so amazed by the process and what she was doing. So I was like, please, absolutely, I need to learn this. I need to be able to gift this to other people, because it was so profound and so much different than anything I had ever done before. You know, so I trained with her in that for like 2.5 years. You know, I've been offering it to clients ever since. And I'm constantly just blown away by the level of healing that can come through that work. Because when you understand your chakras and your energy system, you understand, like, they are part of our consciousness. Like, I didn't know anything about them. You know, even through Reiki, I really didn't learn anything significant about them. You know, they were just a thing. You know, I didn't understand how profoundly rich and deep and complex they are, and how much they affect our lives, because they carry our history. They carry our consciousness. Like, everything that we experience in our life is held in our body and held in our chakras. So, you know, coming to understand that and understanding how they develop and how they respond to life events, how they respond to trauma, helped me to really deeply understand myself in a very different way. Understand my reactivity, understand my trauma responses, understanding the strategies that I developed to survive in those experiences or through those experiences. And it really was transformational.
Linda, let me ask you a question. Well, first of all, thank you so much for sharing your story and going so deep with us. That was real. That was that was a powerful message that you shared with us, and I don't want to kind of just put it to the side like it's, oh, this is her story. Like, I want to say thank you for surviving and thank you for doing the work and being open to receive. I think that nothing happens by accident, and you're a survivor because of the gifts that the universe, God, source, whatever gave you, and so you can go through that to unlock those gifts because you may never have unlocked these gifts that you have unless you were kind of pushed into it or exposed to
Mhm.
it through the need and the necessity because you weren't finding the help anywhere else. I want to say that another thing that you just touched on was, everything is locked in our chakras. Everything is, things are passed down through our DNA. Things are passed down from our ancestors. And some of what you were carrying around may not have been from, or may have been from something directly that could have happened, and you don't know how. And what I'm finding in research that I'm doing now, and also conversations that I'm part of, there are some real prominent doctors and professors from prominent colleges and reputable medical facilities that are really talking about the healing of the ancestral lineage and the healing of your DNA. That literally things are, and I'm getting goosebumps again, things are locked in your DNA and things are locked in your energy fields and things are locked in your chakras. This is all real and legitimate. This is something, thousands of years old. This is not something new. And it's not just spiritual woo-woo, crunchy granola, way out there stuff. Like this was from the beginning of time. This is
Mhm.
what people looked at um, to know where there was dis-ease and discord and disharmony within their body, and they knew this, and then things happened in history, and organized things started happening, and institutionalized things started happening, and we started coming away, and it just now recently, in more recent times, where this is part of life now. A lot of people probably know what chakras are, and a lot of people probably understand what Reiki is. I didn't know till I was in my 30s. As a matter of fact, when I had my clothing line, and I used to do, it's so funny because people would call me a healer, but I've never took it on as I never owned it, and I never became a practitioner of the healing arts, so to speak. But I understand how important it is, and I incorporate it into my life, and I love to amplify the message of other energy workers who are actually doing the work and standing at the front of the class teaching and laying hands on, or holding the space for the healings to happen. But when I had my clothing line, it would come through me. I would do like blessed was one of my prints, angel was one of my prints, and then I'd put colors with it. And I said, but the colors mean something, and I didn't know what it meant. I actually went and researched that this guardian angel with green is for healing in your heart chakra and everything else. Like, but I knew it. So intuitively, somewhere maybe in my DNA, somewhere maybe along my lineage back hundreds and thousands of years, maybe I did have a real healer that was part of my lineage. But um, talk a little bit more about the chakras, since you say they do hold, like, basically everything that has to do with your whole health. It's held in your chakras. Oh, by the way, let me just ask. I want to ask anyone who's here with me live, does any of this resonate with you, or even going back to Linda's story and suppressing? Because my whole thing, and I'm getting goosebumps. I know somebody's out there, and this is speaking directly to them. If you're in your 20s, and then in your 30s, and then in your 40s, and I'm going to be 50 this month, and you're carrying unhealthy things with you and trauma that needs to be healed, and all you keep doing is stuffing it down. Every day you wake up, you're just getting more and more accustomed to stuffing it down and living that life, and you're not embracing the full happiness and joy that you can be living in life. That's why Linda's message is so important for you right now, folks. So please pay attention. So please dive a little bit more into the chakras and what that really means to our whole total happiness, health, and healing.
Yeah, so each of the chakras has a influences part of our body, our physical body, but they also influence our consciousness and how we grow and develop and how we navigate the world, how we express ourselves in the world. But they also hold those experiences that we have, good, bad, indifferent. They keep the memory of that. And when we have experiences, chronic stress, traumas, dysfunction in our surroundings, cultural conditioning that can be toxic, it all is received and held in our body. It's held in our chakra system. And those types of experiences, how do we say this? So we are designed, I'm backing up a little bit, but we are designed as evolutionary beings. Like, we are here to evolve. It is our soul's drive to evolve and grow. When we have these experiences, we're also driven towards resolution. We're driven to process and digest and resolve those experiences. But when we have experiences that happen to us that we don't have the resources to resolve, to address, to handle, then that's when the energy gets trapped in our body. That's when the energy gets held in our chakra system. And when that happens, excuse me, that's when we get out of balance. And we need to navigate the pain that we're carrying in some way, navigate the environment that we're living in. And we develop, through our chakras, we develop strategies to figure that out. So for example, as a young child, especially, we're very dependent on our parents or the adults around us to help us understand and navigate our world. And when things happen that are not explained to us, or we're not guided through or helped to be able to process and heal and understand and digest, then as a children, we get very out of balance. And to no fault of their own, there's a lot of parents who don't have the skills themselves. So they don't know how to, they don't have the ability or capacity to pass those skills down to their children. Also, we tend to disregard the emotional needs of children. So, we don't tell them things, we don't explain things to them, we don't think that things that affect us are affecting them in the same way. And therefore, we don't address their needs. So for example, like when there's parents going through conflict, whether there's divorce or not, they're going through conflict, they're having arguments in the home. They may try to hide it from the kids, but the kids feel it. Even if they don't physically see the arguments, they don't physically see or hear what's happening. They feel the energy of it. They feel the tension of the conflict. But then you've got the parents trying to protect the children who are not talking to them about it, not explaining what's happening to them, not being honest about it. They're trying to hide it. And therefore, the child has to figure out what to do with that energy and what to do with those feelings. And because they're young and they don't have a lot of wisdom at this point in their life, they develop strategies to survive it, to navigate it. And generally speaking, those strategies may work to some degree to navigate what's happening in the household, but they don't translate well out into the world, but they carry them on perpetually through life, and it creates continuing patterns of behavior. So where they may become people pleasers, they may not have good boundaries. A lot of times they'll become people pleasers because they're trying to manage what's happening in the home, trying to protect themselves from or protect their parents, try to keep, hold the peace, for example. And then they carry that out through their life, where they're constantly taking care of and caretaking other people, trying to fix things around them, fix other people, fix situations, trying to control their environment perpetually, never taking care of themselves. And that all is coming through the body. That's all coming through the chakra system, and the energy of that. This is a lot of what I'm talking about right now is sacral chakra stuff, as far as like the boundaries and the people pleasing and everything. And then that translates over time. Well, it translates into some pretty toxic relationships, but also eventually, if it's not handled, it will translate into physical disease. Like women, for example, we have collectively, we have a tremendous amount of trauma and pain that we carry in our sacral chakra, and that's our area of reproduction. And that translates physically to endometriosis, heavy cramping, all sorts of reproductive issues that are related to trauma that has happened, that has impacted the sacral chakra, including, social messages that we get about our value as women or our lack thereof, what we are and are not allowed to do, stories about being selfish, and so on, that we take in, we hold it in our body, and then that translates into a world of pain for us.
Linda, that you took us through a really amazing journey. I'm sure that even if the specific examples that you shared are not exactly what someone who's listening now has experienced in their life, they can relate because it's this story that we tell ourselves based on a certain circumstance or situation that happened when we were a child. And when we're a child, we're learning machines. We're learning. And if that's what we're learning at the time, like, and that's it, and there's no healing, there's no explanation. Like, if we see what we see, we take that in as the learning. If we see what we see and somebody explains to us, about what's going on, we understand it and we digest it, we process it, digest it, and we understand that, oh, but we saw this, but this is really what's happening, right? It's like, okay, I go outside the house, and this is a crazy example, but okay, I go outside the house and I come back inside and I'm wet. Well, it must be because it's raining. Well, it could be because the sprinklers on. It could be because, a car just drove past and splashed me with a puddle. But if I just come back in the house wet and you see me wet, drenched in water, you probably just assume that it's raining. So when you go through these things as a child, you make assumptions and then you deal with it the way you deal with it, like you said. So that's what I wanted to key in on. This is essentially what you're talking about when you speak about trauma, because I know many of us here on Circles of Inspiration, don't get me wrong, and a lot of people through the Wellness Universe totally understand what trauma is, but some people still really think trauma is about falling down, hitting your head, or getting into a car accident, or seeing somebody die before your eyes, like something really like epic that only happens to like one in hundreds of people or thousands of people, and not, seeing mommy and daddy fight and him slapping her across the face, and then you have to deal with the rest of your life, or being a child and being called stupid in front of a group of people and you carrying that the rest of your life with you. People don't fully understand that any of these can be a traumatizing moment in life that literally can shape the rest of your life if you don't address it in a healthy way. So can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so trauma can present itself in a lot of different ways. And as you said, like, many people are deeply traumatized and don't recognize it. They don't recognize that anything that happened in their experience, especially like as children growing up, like what happens around you is what happens around you. It's normal. So we don't fully understand, a lot of people don't fully understand what trauma is, and we don't recognize it in ourselves when we have experienced trauma. And there's a difference between experiencing a traumatic event and being traumatized. So experiencing a traumatic event is one thing, and going back to what I said, like, we have the resources, we're able to process, we're able to heal it, it becomes resolved in our body and in our experience and in our consciousness. Whereas when we don't have that, and that experience is unhealed, undigested, unresolved, that's when we become traumatized. That's when the experience influences us in a harmful way over time. So, but traumas come from a lot of different experiences. Even the way that we are socialized and conditioned in our society can be traumatizing. The messages that we experience based on gender, race, religion, gender identity, from, like, for example, from like a Christian perspective, as a woman, we're told that we are the seed of all evil. That is a very, very negative and harmful and powerful message that's told to us by what's meant to be an authority. And there's many different messages like that, but that alone can create be traumatizing to us through those experiences. And those are things that we don't even necessarily like think about. But then there's things that we witness, things that we see, things that we experience. You know, if there's substance abuse in the home environment, there's erratic behavior, somebody has mental health challenges within the home environment, or disease, disability, all of those things are traumatizing potentially. You know, experience, and it's not, excuse me, it's not just the extremes of like abuse and violence. Those are certainly traumatizing, and a lot of us experience those things, but there's a lot of very subtle things that happen in our lives that can be traumatizing as well. For example, there's a woman that I work with, and when I first met her, you know, I'd noticed some things going on in her heart chakra, and I'm talking to her about it and asking her questions. She has no concept of what it could possibly be. And the longer we worked together, came to learn that her parents loved her very conditionally and would frequently tell her, like, for example, she was unlovable if she did something wrong. And that alone was deeply traumatizing to her. So those messages that parents, society, schools, media tell us, they can be traumatizing. And we don't recognize that we are actually how much we can be influenced and impacted by these things. So we just feel that that's just life, that's just normal. Mm-hmm. And then we don't recognize that the behaviors that we're engaging in that are harmful to us, the relationships that we develop that are toxic, we don't connect the dots between what has happened and how we've been conditioned, or the events that we've grown up and experienced throughout our lives, and those strategies and behaviors that we adopted to survive. You know, usually it's, you know, we're carrying around a lot of anxiety, or we're depressed, or we struggle to succeed. We're unhappy in our lives in some way. And that's where we may reach out for help. And through that help, hopefully the underlying issues would be identified and therefore have the opportunity to be resolved. But it's the resolution of those things that's the key to healing. And I don't mean like you have to relive the events, but you need to resolve what the experience was, acknowledge it, move through the emotions that are associated with it, and allow yourself to heal.
Thank you. Thank you for that amazing explanation. I'm sure that was very clear for us. And again, if you're listening and you're with us right now, just throw a comment in the chat on the Circle of Inspiration page. And if this resonates with you, or if you have any questions for Linda, we're going to come back to you later. We have about 2 minutes left, Linda. And, you know, I know that you really wanted to facilitate a dynamic experience for folks on a global scale. And so therefore, it's been a blessing to partner with you and bring your program, which when, you know, we first started dialoguing about this, and it's heal your chakras, heal your life. And I was like, is that really possible? And the more that I dug in, and I'm like, wow, like it's complicated and we have a lot of digging to do, but this is really possible. Here I'm getting goosebumps again as I'm saying this to you. But tell us a little bit about the course that you're going to be bringing to the Wellness Universe Wellness for All program. You're going to launch it on the 18th of this month. You go live. Yep. You're going live once a month, the third Monday of the month, third Tuesday of the month. Third Tuesday of the month,
third
right?
Tuesday.
Yeah, third Tuesday of the month. And the first live one is this coming 18th of April. So, and everyone, by the way, the link is in the description of this video here. But tell us a little bit more about what people can expect to experience to help them heal their chakras and heal their life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm definitely very excited about this. This is something that I've been working on for a long time. And in the course, we're going to be learning about the chakras, of course, and, you know, to build a deeper understanding, especially about the consciousness that each of them carries. And then we're going to be having opportunities to dive into specific common areas of challenge within those chakras as a group, and engaging in some dynamic discussion is what I'm visioning to create, where we can explore some of the deeper issues and explore ways to bring our history into resolution, and tools and skills and practices that you can use just to simply strengthen your chakras. When we talk about healing work, and healing work can be pretty messy, I'm not going to lie about that, but it definitely requires some work. But there are things that are very simple and gentle and graceful that we can do around healing. It doesn't have to all be painful. And oftentimes, like in moving through the pain, it's more cathartic and freeing and liberating. But we'll be exploring different things that we can do as we go through and explore each of the different chakras throughout the months, and really get into the specific nuances of those and how you can apply these practices and tools to help resolve and to bring your history into some point of resolution. Changes that you can make, tools, practices you can use, and even just exploring ways to release things that we're carrying too.
Linda, I applaud you for the work that you're doing. I thank you for making it through your traumas and healing through everything that you have, because I honestly feel that a healed healer is the most effective, because there's different degrees and different types of healers out there and different types of teachers out there and people that just learn and they're just excited about something and they've applied it. But to really have come through what you've come through, being to a point where you were so suicidal and desperate to find the remedy for your life, and then going through this process for yourself, and then to learn it, and then to bestow it upon us all. I say thank you so much. You are a blessing to us all. And I'm hoping that somebody discovers you today, that many people discover you today, and come and join you at, in your course, Heal Your Chakras, Heal Your Life. And again, anyone, if you have any questions, you can hashtag replay and comment. Linda and I will be checking those comments over the next 24 to 48 hours. You will be answered back. But Linda, thank you once again for being my guest on Circles of Inspiration and sharing your story, your knowledge, your wisdom, and opening us up to a different way to help us heal through, and also give us a new perspective on perhaps what is going on in our own lives, and that this may be the key that we've been searching for all of our lives. And this is a gentle way. I know you said healing through it can be messy, but it can be much more gentler, because we have control. Like we could say, I want to push that edge more, or I want to pull back. We have that power for our own self-healing when we apply that. So thank you, Linda. Thank you so much.